Kravitz?
I live in unit number 23 on Canny Bayou Lane.
How long have you lived there?
About 20 years now.
And if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm a little long to 67.
And at 67, how's your health?
I went to the doctor the other day. He gave me a clean bill of health, excellent hearing, and good eyesight.
Now, I'd like to turn your attention to today's case. Why are you here?
I was subpoenaed to be here.
And what did you observe just briefly on June 14th, 2014?
That was Flag Day, and I observed my neighbors running, I guess, through the neighborhood.
Now, how do you know Pete Seeger?
He moved in across the street.
And how do you know Adriana Testa?
That's his girlfriend.
What was your first interaction like with Pete Seeger?
I'm kind of like the unofficial neighborhood welcoming committee. So I saw Pete moving in, and I walked over to introduce myself and welcome him to the neighborhood.
And what, if any, interactions have you had with Pete while you've been his neighbor?
All my interactions have been good. He sometimes I need help around the house, and he comes and helps around the house. So it's been great, I guess.
How would you explain your relationship with Pete Seeger?
We're very good friends, and like I said, if I need anything done around the house, I'll call him and he'll come help.
How would you explain your relationship with the rest of your neighbors?
Good friends with everyone in the neighborhood.
How does your friendship with Pete Seeger affect your testimony that you're giving in court today?
I'm here to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Now, I'd like to talk about things that you might have witnessed by being neighbors with Pete Seeger. When have you ever seen him drink alcohol?
Never.
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Your Honor, I'm merely asking him if he's ever seen this, not if he has ever drank alcohol.
Overruled.
Now, when have you ever seen Pete Seeger drinking alcohol while he's been your neighbor? When have you ever seen him use drugs?
Never.
And when have you ever seen him intoxicated?
Once again, never.
What about Adriana Testa?
I have learned that she drinks a lot.
And have you ever witnessed this?
I saw her with some Red Bull and vodka before.
Now, I'd like to talk about any interactions that you have had recently. When was the last interaction you had with Miss Testa? What was the last interaction that you had with Miss Testa?
She indicated to me that what happened on June 14th, what she told the police, was a lie.
And how did she tell you she actually received her injuries?
That she fell while running.
I'd like to talk about what you saw that day. Where did you see, or what time did this incident start?
It happened around 8 o'clock. I was getting ready to order a movie on Netflix.
What did you notice?
I heard some noise outside, and so I went to the front door to see what was going on, and I saw Testa come out of the house, and then she was running down the street, and she was followed by Pete.
And what did you hear during this time?
I heard some screaming and someone saying, "Help me."
No. If I showed you a map of this area where you saw the incident, would you recognize it?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to publish an enlarged version of what's been already entered into evidence, Exhibit 1.
Okay.
Can I ask that the witness may step down and make use of this demonstrative?
Okay.
Now, Mr. Kravitz, what road do you live on?
Canny Bayou.
And could you mark where you live with your initials, JK?
Sure.
And where does Pete Seeger live?
He lives right across the street right here.
Can you mark that with his initials, PS?
Sure.
You mentioned that you saw Adriana leaving the apartment or the trailer that day, what road did she leave on?
On Canny Bayou, and she ran down.
Could you please mark with an arrow the direction that she ran?
Sure.
And after running down Canny
Mm-hmm.
Bayou, where did she run next?
She made a right onto Royal Drive.
And could you please mark that with an arrow? After taking a right onto Royal Drive, where did she run next?
She was kind of like stumbling and zigzagging through the trailers.
And could you please mark that for the jury?
It's kind of like a little squiggly motion like that, I guess.
And where was Pete Seeger during this time?
He was following her, but she runs real fast and he couldn't catch her.
And could you please explain where, if ever, you lost sight of Adriana?
She made this right, lost sight for a second, and then as she was like zigzagging through the trailer, I see her. And,
How long did you lose sight of her during this time?
not very long.
Thank you. You may take your seat. Now, you mentioned that Pete Seeger was behind Adriana. What, if anything, did he have in his hand?
He had a hammer.
And when did you ever see him use this hammer as a weapon?
I didn't see him.
Well, when did you see him swing this hammer?
I didn't.
And I'd like to talk about something else that you did that day. What did you do in response to seeing this incident?
I called the police.
Would you recognize a 911 transcript if you saw it today?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I'm showing opposing counsel. It's been pre-marked as Exhibit 8 for identification purposes.
Okay.
Permission to approach the witness with the same document.
You may.
Mr. Kravitz, what did I just hand you?
This is transcript from my 911 call.
Does it appear to be fair and accurate?
Yes.
Do any of the statements appear to be altered in any way?
No, they do not.
Your Honor, at this time the defense offers Exhibit 8 into evidence.
Any objection? No objection, Your Honor. So enter.
I'd like to talk about this 911 call. Why did you call 911?
I heard someone yell for help, so I called 911.
Did you ever see Pete Seeger hit Adriana Testa?
No, I didn't.
And when did you ever indicate to the 911 operator that you saw him attacking her?
I did not.
And when did you see blood that night?
There was blood on Testa, Adriana.
But was there any blood on Pete Seeger?
I didn't see any blood on Pete.
And from what you could see, did you see any blood on that hammer?
No.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor. Permission to approach, retrieve, and publish to the jury.
Okay. Any cross?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Kravitz. I would like to begin by discussing your relationship with Mr. Seeger. You live in the French Quarter trailer park, correct?
Yes.
And you live right across the street from Mr. Seeger.
Correct.
And in the 3 years that he's lived there, you and him have become pretty good friends, haven't you?
Yes, I'm friends with most people in the neighborhood.
But Mr. Seeger especially comes over to your house and fixes anything you need, right?
If I ask him, he'd come over.
And he never charges you for any of that work, does he?
But none of my neighbors do. I'm old.
Well, you would hate for Mr. Seeger to get in trouble, wouldn't you?
If he did something wrong, yes.
Let's move on to the night of June 14th. You were home that night, correct?
Yes.
And it was about 8 p.m.
Yeah, 8 p.m. it was flat day.
when you heard some commotion coming from across the street, right?
Correct.
So you went to the window,
Yes.
and what you saw caused you some alarm, didn't it?
Oh, it was interesting, but really what I heard.
What you heard caused you to call 911 too,
Yes.
right? Because you heard Miss Testa screaming, didn't you?
Person screaming and yelling, but someone saying help me.
She was saying, "Help me," wasn't she?
Correct.
And she was saying, "Stop hitting me," wasn't she?
She did say that, correct.
And when you saw her come out of the trailer, you saw her run down the street, right?
Yes, she's fast.
Well, you said on your direct examination that you saw her stumble, didn't you?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach Exhibit 8. Retrieve, excuse me, permission to approach the witness. Show me in your 911 call transcript where it says Ms. Testa was stumbling.
Well, I didn't say this to the 911 people.
So you didn't think it was important to tell all what was going on to the 911 callers?
Well, I said that she was being followed. She was running, screaming for help, and that she was being followed. I didn't know how much detail they wanted to go into.
But you never saw her stumble, did you?
She was stumbling, I guess, whenever she was running.
But you never saw her fall into the ground, did you?
I never saw her fall.
Now, going back to what you observed that night, you saw Ms. Testa come out of the trailer and run down the street, right?
Yes.
And you saw Mr. Seeger, the defendant, run after her, didn't he?
Correct.
And he had a hammer in his hand.
Yes.
And as he chased her with that hammer in his hand, Ms. Testa screamed, "Stop hitting me," didn't she?
Yes, but I never saw him hit her.
But that's what she was screaming, right? "Stop hitting me."
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any redirect? Briefly, Your Honor.
Now, opposing counsel just asked you about what Ms. Testa was yelling, "Stop hitting me." When, that entire time, did you ever see Pete Seeger hit Adriana Testa?
Never.
Thank you, I've never